Welcome to the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, the original food service equipment repair podcast built by technicians for technicians. Whether you're on the front lines of repair, keeping the kitchen running smoothly, or just passionate about the food service repair industry, this podcast is your go-to source for expert insight, tech tips, and real stories from the field. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. I am your host, Pat Finley. I am joined by co-host Jason Latimer and special guest Stuart Reiman. But first, here's a quick tip from our friends at Viper. In commercial kitchens, clean coils and evaporators are essential, and Viper's NSF registered products are the best choice. Safe, effective, and formulated to keep kitchens running smoothly. So thanks, Viper, for helping out and supporting the channel. I use Viper in kitchens every single day. Anytime I got to change clean a coil, put some pipes together, I use Nylog White. So Viper is a pretty good product, and it's safe for kitchens, food applications, and that's a huge part of what we do. We got to keep the customer safe, keep their products, safe and good, ready to eat. So, what is up, man? I've been trying to get Stuart on here for a while. He's been dodging me, but really, he's just been in class. This guy, I think he goes to class more than he actually works these days. It seems like, but we finally
pretty
got
much.
So, Stuart is I'll just let him tell you. Stuart, who do you work for? Where are you from, bud?
I work for Hagar Restaurant Service out of the Tulsa, Oklahoma branch. I've been here about 13 years.
So that's the only company you've done food service work for is Hagar, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's pretty good. 13 years in one place, especially learning. A lot of times in this industry, guys will get a few years in, and they kind of get I don't know if it's ego or bravado or whatever, but they get pretty decent at what they're doing, and they either want a lot of money, or they jump to go chase money or different things. And but be 13 years at the place you started at is a pretty cool accomplishment. So hats off to you, man.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to pay me pretty decently for what I do, so I figure I just keep sticking around.
Yeah, that always helps, man. You like what you do and make decent money, you can't really complain at that point.
That's why I've been married 20 years.
Same here. I just 21, so that's cool. We followed each other on all the social medias for a while now, and I noticed here recently you started putting out a lot more content. We talked a little bit about that.
Breaking up.
So I've been following you for a while, and I noticed you're putting out a lot of content here lately. And it's really cool to see because you're doing it from a POV perspective. You got a little camera, you're wearing your shirt, and it's really cool to see some of your repairs. So what really inspired you to start doing that?
I mean, a lot of it's going to be showing my technicians the longer videos and showing them how I did certain things, certain ways that stuff should be done. But I really enjoy doing the quick auto edits and posting them up on the TikTok and Instagram and stuff. So
you put longer format. Are you putting longer format up on YouTube, or is that something you're going to be working on here soon?
Yeah, I put some of the longer ones. I'm still going to do practice my editing. I've just started, so
it's a downward spiral. Ain't that right, Jason? Editing videos. Mm-hmm. I remember having like 3 hours of content and like knocking it down to like 20-30 minute video, and it's like took me like a full day, and I was like, why am I doing this? Driving myself crazy. But I mean, it's rewarding and it's fun to see what you do from start to finish. So it'll be worth it in the long run. It's a lot of fun though. You just gotta have a computer that can handle it, because you think your computer can handle it and it really can't.
Yeah, my computer I've got at home is like 10 years old, so that's next week's problem.
Yeah, I had a gaming PC. It's a couple of years old, and it edited it, but as soon as you go to render it, it just lock up and crash. Like, it couldn't handle the processing of the video. So I ended up with a MacBook, and it seems to be rock and rolling. I think 3 years later.
I've never once edited a video on a computer. I've only ever done it on my cell phone. Strangely enough,
that's how I'm doing a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Is through the cell phone first.
And it's really intuitive.
Yeah, some of it. Sometimes I'm uploading the longer ones into the computer and then breaking them back down. But
yeah, that one I put out yesterday about the contactor. I did that all on my phone. Like it was like 15 minutes originally. I think I knocked down to like 10 minutes. That's the problem. It just takes a ton of space. You got to make sure once you get it uploaded, you get it deleted off there because you're gonna need that space sooner or later. Especially because I'll try to, if I record from my glasses, I try to put it up in 4K, and it's just so much room, man. So much room. It sucks. So,
For a 256 gig phone, it sure does fill up real quick.
So we got Neil C. Vids in the chat. We got Brian Sanders. Who else we got in here? The Milwaukee Maniac. Yeah, I'm a little envious of your van. We don't get to choose what goes in our vans. We just get whatever's in there and don't throw a fit type of deal. And it's never very conducive to what we do.
No, the big portion of it that's up towards the front where I've got the multiple pack out stacked, that was actually just a straight shelf. Mm-hmm. And I kind of broke it down, moved some of them over to the other shelves, and just make sure I kept all the parts and pieces and stored them off at the shop.
Nice. So let's get into this. Before you got into the kitchen industry, you were a manager of a club?
Tulsa's longest running hip hop and R&B club.
What was that all about? How'd you get into that?
Well, my parents owned a bar around the corner from it, and then sometimes on weeknights they would have different kind of music nights. I go hang out there, got to know the owner real well. Eventually started helping with security and bartending and bar backing, and just over the next couple years worked my way up to general manager.
That's a cool story, man. I didn't think I was going to learn that about you. So,
company Mustang and everything.
Oh, that's great. Was it labeled or was it unmarked? You could just do whatever you wanted, or
the license plate was customized.
No, well, you can handle that though. That's funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what lessons did you learn back then that have stuck with you? 13 years later.
That you definitely can't make everybody happy. Because anytime anything went wrong, a fight or a disagreement about a drink, someone's not going to walk away happy.
That's a good point. We run into ticked off customers every day, and we do our best to diffuse the situation, and sometimes you can't win. So it's a good point. So what made you decide that enough is enough of the club life and you were ready for a change?
A lot was just the always being busy on the weekends, never having any of my weekend time, especially when stuff shifted around and we started being open even more nights. I decided to get out of it. And at the time, my brother was working the parts counter for Hagar. So he got me the foot in the door to become a helper, and then just took off from there.
Nice. So did you think that, 13 years later, you'd be in the position you're in now when you started here?
No, not really. I mean, I've always been dedicated to pretty much anything I do, but I didn't know if I'd stick with this as long as I have.
That's cool. So how was the training regimen for you, when you first started? You said you were a helper. So did you just ride with somebody for a period of time and they just teach everything they knew, or how'd you come up?
Pretty much. We had 2 senior technicians. One's retired. The other we've got mainly doing shop calls right now just because of health problems. A lot was hands-on. And then back then, it seemed like the factories were putting out a lot more classes in OKC and Dallas. So it literally, like that first year, I was probably going to a class a month.
Nice. Yeah, that Dallas market, man, and it seems like there's even more companies going to that area to have a hub. Yeah. I think, you got Middleby that's absolutely killing it, and then I heard there's other manufacturers coming to that area as well. So,
well, Welbill's putting their own innovation kitchen down there too.
Yeah. Where do you go? That's cool. So it's even more training opportunities for you. You were up not too far from me last week or the week before, weren't you? Up in Ohio?
Yeah, week before I was in Eaton, Ohio for Henny Penny.
Yeah, that's not too far from the Indiana border. I've driven by that facility many a times. Never been there. I haven't done any penny work in 15 years probably.
Henny Paint does things a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
you have to be affiliated with their distributor network to get training type thing.
Yeah, it's super weird. I mean, occasionally I'll run a call. Some Arby's calls generally is what I end up running somehow. Generally it's a filter issue. It never fails. I can't get an easy one. Give me filters. So that's cool. So what was some of the harder things you came across early in your career? Like in the first year, what were some of your struggles and your successes you had?
Probably the first was of course, learning the meter first off, and then understanding how gas works and steam works. But I seem to have accomplished it pretty quickly and come to learn it and understand it decently quickly. I was running my own calls within 6 months. I was put on call within 9 months.
Wow.
I got my Sufesa Master at 13 months.
Holy smokes. That's
I actually
impressive.
did the week-long Fry Master class before I did the 2-day class.
Yeah, I wish they still did that, man. That was one of the funnest classes, and not just the experience, of being there a week and they treat you like royalty, but it's like you learn so much, and you got to see a lot of things that most people don't ever get to see. It was a really cool experience. So I wish I'd bring that back, but who knows? So what's early on? What were some of the favorite things you had to work on when you first getting started?
I would say probably combi ovens, just because of how complicated they can be.
Mm-hmm.
That first summer I was with the company, we installed 24 rationales in a school system, and I really enjoyed that. And even then, I went to rationale after only being with the company for 6 months.
It's a heck of a way to cut your teeth, man. 24.
Yeah, that one's rough. But yeah, it was pretty much every elementary in one of our large suburbs got one.
Installing rationales is like one of my favorite things to do. Like, I don't know why, but like to see it come from boxes to on the stand to stacked and just completion is really cool. The hose thing kind of irritates me because I try to make everything nice straight lines. You got these hoses, kind of running everywhere, and I get it. It's gonna be able to get moved and stuff. It's like, man, I want this to look nice and pretty, and I get this stupid hose that's won't lay flat or it's curled up or something stupid in the back. So
yeah, I've got some Vulcan steamers, double 2 units, installing next week that they want to make pretty. So
pretty.
Do you get access to a press tool or anything?
No, it's the only thing I'm lacking, pretty much.
Yeah. If I had my way, I'd like hard pipe into the filters, hard pipe out of the filters, down the wall to like wherever it comes in, and then flex line out of the wall to the units, and then I could kind of hide a little bit. But trying to get your customers to pay for that when it's a flat rate install is kind of hard to do.
Yeah.
But in an alternate universe, I'd have it my way. But I try to do my best with what I can, make it look nice. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't.
Pretty much the press tool is the only Milwaukee tool I don't own. So
mine's not Milwaukee. I'm not one of those. I love Milwaukee Tools, but I got rigid on that. So
it's all about the battery platform. That's what I keep telling myself.
Yeah. I pretty much went straight M12 on everything now. I still have an M18 Sawzall hammer drill and impact, but my big impact's M18. But I bought a little kit for like $229, man. It was a 1/4-inch drive impact, the fuel, the surge, and then it had a 1/2-inch hammer drill that was M12, and like it does everything I need it to do. And then I got an M12 porta band. I'm cutting my rationale pipe with it, so I'm like, I can pretty much do anything I need to do with M12. If I know it's gonna be something heavy duty or something wild, then I can grab the M18 stuff and throw it on the van. But I'm trying to save space, man.
Yeah, they've got a special order that I couldn't find anywhere locally. M12 drill driver upgraded unit. It's got dual speed. It's got the quick connect, easy connect with the one-handed connection.
Yeah. Oh, I love Milwaukee Tools, man. They took care of me early on. I had an incident where I bought some batteries and some DeWalt batteries, and they broke. It was a known issue they were having at the time where some of the factories over tightened the screws and they'd split. And they wouldn't warranty it. They said I dropped it. I'm like, dude, I never even dropped it. There's no drop marks on it. Like, I don't know, it's dropped. That's the only way it happens. I was like, whatever, man. So I got on Twitter. I was like, I was nobody. I didn't even have. I mean, this was like 7 years ago. And I got on Twitter and I was like, never again at DeWalt Tough. I am heading to Home Depot and I am buying all new Milwaukee power tools and tag Milwaukee. And then Milwaukee replied like, hey, DM us. We're going to make this a lot easier on you. So I DM'd them. Like, I figured they'd send me a coupon or something or a gift card. They mailed me this big giant box and it had a 1/2-inch hammer drill, the big M18 fuel impact. I mean, it had all kinds of stuff. It was like a $7 kit. And I was like, holy smokes. So then I made a video throwing DeWalt stuff in the trash. Pat, this was long before I had an HR department, Jason.
Okay.
But yeah. So
is that where you got hooked, man?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You're like, wait a minute, online free stuff? No, that's pretty cool.
So Milwaukee does a lot, man. They work with a lot of people. They do it right, and so does DeWalt. I just see more Milwaukee in our line of work. It seems like everyone's more of a Milwaukee fan than DeWalt. But I mean, to each his own. I'm not knocking any of them. They all have great products. So
I love my DeWalt stuff. My batteries do crack sometimes too. But
my wife was browsing Facebook the other day, Marketplace, and sent me a listing for a Milwaukee Jack Dolly, is the way it was worded.
I think I've seen that.
And asked me if I needed it because it was only like $100 or something like that. And I looked it up and I went, no, I do not have that. I do not have the MX Fuel jackhammer that goes with.
Oh, it's a special battery.
No, it's a whole dolly to put the jackhammer on.
Oh.
Yeah, if we're jackhammering, we got some problems, man.
If you were to buy the jackhammer, would it come with that dolly?
No, it comes separate.
Okay, you gotta speak that stuff into existence. You needed that because that's coming.
Oh yeah, because that just needs more work around the house.
You're the kitchen jackhammer.
Yeah. There's a pad out back that she's not fond of.
That's funny.
It's better than a sledgehammer.
So what were some of the steps between being a helper and working your way up to a field supervisor? I mean, or senior tech and field supervisor. I mean, that's quite a distinguished jump there. How long did it take you to get to your current role?
I'd probably say about 8 years, where I could
Wow.
confidently say I'm the one go-to. A lot of it is investment in my tools, because then I'm the fixer. I'm the one that's got the tools to do the specialty jobs, to do all the installs. A big part of it was the little extra things around the shop of organizing things, cleaning up things, getting things ready to go for dump runs or scrap metal runs. Just making sure that even if we were slow, putting in my full 8 all the time.
That's very good.
Just being recognized for that kind of thing.
That's the same thing, I did. I did 5 years before I came to where I'm at now. I've been here 14 years, and those first 3 to 5 years, like, I was the guy that wouldn't say no. I was the guy, you get a night install, you got a night job, you need someone to go here do this. I was the guy that did it just because they were struggling. I didn't, 5 years in, I thought I knew everything. I thought I was, what I am now, and I'm not. I wasn't, and I'm still not where I want to be. But being willing to take on that stuff and do those things just shows that you have that desire and that want, and it just takes that right person to see it and then to help you get where you want to be. I know, like, I bring a trailer back. If I take the trailer out and I bring it back and it's got grease on it, and I put oil dry on it, I clean it up, I sweep it out, like, and I nothing drives me more crazy than when I come back to the shop and, like, there's 4 sets of ratchet straps just wadded up in a ball and just left on the trailer. I'm like, you didn't find those like that. I was like, who had the trailer last? I'm like, send out a company-wide email. Hey, come back and make sure you roll up the straps and put them up. Unless they're wet, then you can hang them up to dry so they don't mold. And clean up your mess. Your mom doesn't work here,
Yeah. I think that's about every shop that's got multiple people working in it. Yeah.
It drives me nuts, man. And then I'll send it out and it'll be my son. I'm like, dude, you know better, man. He's like, my bad. I was like, no, don't do it again. I was like, I made you roll those straps up so many times. You know better, man. So it's funny. So that's cool. So what does a day look like in your current role? I mean, I know you're running calls, but what else?
It's back and forth between installs, following up with disgruntled customers that need, something fixed, following after my other technicians, and then back to installs, and then back to special projects. It jumps around all the time.
So you never know what you're going to do. Just wherever the need for you arises, you go. So
pretty much. I mean, even though I don't do refrigeration, there's been quite a few times I've had to go help them with something specific during installs or during evap changeouts where we had to drill out an orifice because it was being double orificed, just the way the equipment matched up. So
nice. This sounds like well-rounded. You can do about anything they ask you to do. And I know you said you don't do refrigeration. Do you want to learn refrigeration?
Yeah, I'm working on doing. In Oklahoma, we have to have our journeyman's license.
Oh.
So as soon as I get that, I'll probably end up at the Safesa refrigeration 1 week course, just so I get a solid, 1 week of hands-on with whoever's teaching at that time. And then, because it's kind of hard for us to justify me riding with a refrigeration tech to get hands-on time.
I heard that guy teaching September is kind of weird and strange, so just to watch out.
Yeah.
So,
it's you, right, Pat?
Yes, me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jason's getting worried. I signed up for September this year. I've got November the last few years. It's like the first week of it's the first full week in November, and it's always like right in the middle of a rut for deer hunting in Indiana. I'm like, I can't do this again. I can't miss, because when I go up there the Friday before, and then I come back to Saturday after. So it's like, it's 8-9 days. I'm like, it's prime time hunting season. I don't want to, nothing against you, Safesa, but I'd rather be out in the woods. That's cool. It's a great class. There's 2 teachers, myself and then Chris Ayers from Day and Night. He's really good. He's really knowledgeable. He's a really good guy. And we kind of split duties. They're doing 3 this year, and I think they're going to try to step it up to even more next year. So,
yeah,
this is really
I mean, I've studied pretty much all the refrigeration books that are behind me, and I know all the theories. I know most everything theoretically. I just haven't had much hands-on time with it.
I don't know if Jason agrees with me on this, but refrigeration is like 98% electrical. And there's 2.
I should be fine.
Yeah, then it's like 2% of the time where you got to get into a system and see what's going on. But like 98% of the time, it's like, oh, my fan motor doesn't work. Oh, my contactor doesn't pull in. Oh, my pressure switch doesn't work. It's like 90% of the time it's electrical, and then occasionally it's like, oh, I'm out of gas. Like, oh, my compressor's not running. Well, my switch isn't satisfied. Why is my switch satisfied? Oh, because I had no charge in here. So then it's like, okay, now I find a leak, and all that is pumping up of nitrogen and trying to find a leak. I mean, you get into the weird stuff occasionally, undercharged, overcharged, mixed gases and stuff like that. But it's not too hard. It's just you have to have patience when it comes to refrigeration. That's what got me when I first started. I was used to like hot side. I can fix an oven in 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, I know it's good. I'm see you later. I'm out of here. But refrigeration, dude, something can take hours to cool down. Sometimes you come back the next day to make sure that freezer drops down. And I did not have patience. There's still times now I don't have patience. You can ask Jason. So,
yeah, I mean, on my end, hearing the end user complain about, hey, this was just worked on. Why isn't it working? And it's just so much more science to refrigeration, and time you got to put in to make sure that it's it's right. It's half the time I'm just like, hey, don't send that freezer truck home just yet. Let's give it another night and let's just monitor it. More
like
times
waiting
than
for that
not.
dishwasher to warm up.
It's like, I find myself having to explain our side, and I try to play devil's back and forth. It's like I'm just trying to share the experience. I've been there, so
Yeah, dish machines are fun too. I love dish machines. I don't do a whole ton of them, but when this dish machine call comes in, I try to make sure it's got my name on it.
Or trying to ice down a kettle to make sure it goes into a vacuum, or
Dude,
I'm not big on the waiting stuff. But
I'm amazed at how many guys don't understand that those kettles have to be in a vacuum. Like,
yeah,
they're blown away. They don't have any concept. Like, it has to be what? I'm like, yeah.
You can't leave it at 0. pull the
it
release
just
valve.
won't work.
Yeah.
Or it's gonna pop off and scare the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
My favorite, Cracker Barrels.
Taco Bueno surprise.
Cracker Barrels kill me, dude. Like, I've seen you guys do this, so I'm doing it. I'm like, well, that's not how it works, dude.
And then all of a sudden it says low water. Ooh.
Yeah.
It works when I tip it forward. The light turns on. Like, that's not how you make it work. That's not how you make it work. You're gonna cause a problem.
At least my Cracker Barrels have cases and cases and cases of distilled water for those little warmers. Like, so I don't. I used to I'd go to I got a Cracker Barrel kettle call. I better stop and buy some distilled water. And now I'm like, I ain't gonna do that no more because they have cases of it now with that little warmer.
No.
So that's the only good thing about them. So how do you balance the demands of being a tech in the field and some of your other roles?
Really just, a lot of my calls I can work with my dispatcher on which ones I run, which ones someone else needs to run. When I need some, time to dedicate just to working in the shop on something or working on a special project, he works with me really well. And of course, I've got the backing of my branch manager to pretty much do what I need to do to get done, because a big part of it is also I do a lot of the maintenance around our building. And when something's wrong around there, it's got to get done.
Nice. That's it really is a team in the office. You hear guys sometimes complain about the dispatcher doesn't listen or the managers don't listen, and that just breeds hostility and everything else. Everyone needs to be focused on the same goal, and that's taking care of our customers. And if we're all focused on that goal, everything else should be easy.
Yeah. My now branch manager has been here a few years longer than me, but he's actually younger than I am. And his dad was our service manager before he passed away a few years ago. So me and him have pretty much grown up in the company together, and it makes it really easy to work with each other.
That's cool. That's a great dynamic, it sounds like, in your office. So, I'm a huge proponent of someone in the office having a technical background so they can at least, understand what the guys are going through, or have some sort of an understanding. If a guy calls in, I'm having trouble with this, and this, they may not know the answer, but they know how, they've been in that situation where they're struggling with something, and they know how to help them in some way or another. So,
yeah, no, it's been very helpful for him to be able to take calls from other technicians while I'm, extremely busy or something. He does a lot to help out on the parts side or parts sales side, because we have a full warehouse and, sell to the public. So any of the girls that need help identifying a part or, making sure something's going to be right, since he's got the technical background, it really helps out there too.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've gotten a FaceTime call from my boss, like, is this the right part? Because it doesn't look like what it says it is. I'm like, show me a picture. I'm like, no, that's not right. But you got another one in stock, or look on Parts Town and put that part number in and look, and it'll show you what it looks like, because that's not a thermostat or that's not a contactor. It's always fun.
Yeah, you see that little black cap on there? That means LP, not natural.
Yeah. So I know you like tearing stuff apart and building some training boards.
I do.
Where did that come from?
Boredom. Curiosity, see if I could do it, because especially since I try to make sure that my training boards actually fire and produce fire. That's what I really enjoy, is the fact that I can actually shoot fire out of them.
Yeah, I seen that one. You had some videos of that one, and it's pretty cool. shooting fire and adjusting the.
I've got a full 3-burner convection oven up on a board. I've got a ignition system ripped out of a Blodgett combi oven. And then what else I got? I've got the water level control, a 3-probe water level control. I've got a centrifugal switchboard. I've got a couple others. And I've also got quite a few full units with all the panels pulled off of them and sitting on carts at the shop just for training.
That's cool. Hands-on and being able to show them, outside the unit how things work, and you can follow, the path of the wires or, the tubing and stuff. It really makes it easier for some guys. So are there any moments? Go ahead.
No, I really like to, if I get a call from a technician and they don't seem 100% confident in what I told them to do or how I, came to that conclusion, I like to have the training boards back at the shop, catch them at the end of the day and go, this is what you were looking at, and this is what I was thinking, and this is how I got there.
Yeah, that's a great tool to have and to walk them through it, because you can't always run out to the job site where they're at and help them. I mean, you're tied up fixing stuff or doing other things, and they got to learn somehow. So I'm a firm believer in asking questions instead of, I may know the answer, but I'm not going to tell somebody the answer. I will ask some questions and kind of guide them there. That way they seem to learn a little better, because, you can give them the answers and all they're going to call you for is more answers.
Yeah.
So are there any moments where you were helping a tech and they had a breakthrough and, that you were especially proud of, or, you've seen someone turn that page because of something you taught them?
Oh yeah, it happens decently often, actually, because I do try to explain the why and how something is happening, not just, oh, that's bad, it's, break it, or replace it. With the Pitco relay boards, I walk by and you hear that buzz right there? You hear that buzz? That's going to be a bad board here soon. And then they'll get the call the next day or something, and yep, you were right. It was the board. And I was like, okay, now do you understand why that buzzing was important? Because it was letting go.
Nice. So how important is hands-on training in our industry? I mean, I know you've taken a lot of classes, you work with a lot of techs, but how important is it versus just sitting through a class where you're just staring at a screen?
I think extremely important. I think it needs to be a mix of, I mean, really class with hands-on. That was a big thing that Henny Penny was promoting, is a lot of the things, everything I did the other week was there was the unit we were talking about sitting in front of us. They didn't have anything that wasn't, being discussed, not in the classroom, with the full set of tools and everything that we could work with. But I really think it needs to be a good mix of class and hands-on, and maybe not so much the time spent in between calls riding the truck. I think some of the greener techs really do need a little bit more in a hands-on classroom environment earlier in their careers.
So what's a good mix? 50-50? I'm trying to get to about 70-30 for my refrigeration class. So 70% hands-on, 30% in the class. And when I teach, if I'm covering something, I see guys struggling, we'll get up and I'll go back and I'll find a mock-up or something we have and show them in person versus just stand up there and talk about it. It seems to work out pretty well for me.
One of the ways I would like to see things going is, because a lot of it is, I can teach a lot of the mechanical. I can teach someone to be mechanical usually, if they've got an open mind about it and the willingness to study on their own. But a lot of it has come down to attitude. So I think still putting them out in the field, ride-alongs for about 90 days to see if they're even got the proper attitude for this industry. Because yes, we do work alone a lot. We do work with just the machines mainly, but we still have to interact with our customers. We have to interact with our coworkers. You can't really teach attitude. If they've got a bad attitude, they've got a bad attitude. If they think they're too good for it, you're not going to, train that out of them. So what I would like to see is about 90 days, in a senior technician's truck, to see if they can even go further. And then I would like to see probably a few weeks of really in-depth, hands-on, okay, this is how a gas train system works. This is how a steam system works. This is electrical, but a lot of hands-on demonstration in a classroom type. And then we can start putting them back out into the field and see how much they've progressed mechanically, along with hopefully having a good attitude about it.
Stuart, would you say that your standard that you're holding your techs to is the same standard that you were held to, or even better, or do you feel that you're putting out what you maybe feel you didn't get when you first started?
Probably a little bit of that, because a lot of my training was the fact that I was willing to go home and learn a lot of this stuff on my own. It wasn't necessarily through classes or through, what I was receiving day to day. I mean, I had good trainers. Some were a little bit old school in the older ways of doing things, but I did take a lot of it on my own to learn different ways of how to do things. So I feel like I'm pretty graceful with the speed at which someone learns or what they can learn, but I don't think I'm holding them too high of a standard.
So when you say you had some old school, would you say like maybe some are using a leak detector and others using a lighter? I'm messing.
Or they would use the old blue channel locks with the flat jaws and try and turn pipes.
The ones that are
black,
ones that are all chewed up and gone.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that you're previous to this job, you were working as in a club. You sound pretty technically inclined, and I know a lot of that sounds like you put a lot of the work in yourself. Did you have any technical jobs prior to that previous job? Maybe mechanic, oil change, anything, or did you feel
no,
like you
not really? I
getting
mean,
into this, or
no, not really. I mean, my dad was always pretty hands-on growing up. He fixed pretty much he was a hobby woodworker, so it was constantly tools breaking down that he would fix themselves. He actually sharpened knives and scissors and clipper blades and stuff as a living. So there was always repairing clippers and stuff like that. So there was always tools around. There was always, stuff to fidget with. But when I was in the club, I mean, we did do a lot of lighting changes, a lot of remodeling type stuff, maintenance stuff. But yeah, so I've always been somewhat technical, but I've really, getting into this industry, I've really dived into the real details and exactly how everything works.
That's great.
Yeah, that's really good.
Some people assume you had to have. A lot of people assume that because I get before I came over to on this side being an RFM previously, the service company I came from, I found that the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of the kids that came out of tech school or came in were learning off of YouTube versus where 14 years ago I was, it was 90% hands-on. Maybe they showed a VHS video in class or something, but it was all hands-on. Now everyone's kind of watching videos and whatnot. So not sure what type of crop
videos aren't a bad thing as long as you understand why they're holding the wrench the direction they are.
Yeah. So you feel like you've been doing this, what you said, 14, 11 years? What'd you say?
13 years in this industry.
So in 13 years, have you seen a change in the crop of students or crop of techs you're getting in? Is it getting better, worse, the same?
It's kind of hard to tell with my company, because I know at least on my first few years, we were hiring in a lot more already experienced guys.
Yeah.
We got, people that, supposedly already had a lot more experience. Some did, some didn't. And it was obvious.
Some had more bad habits than experience, right?
Yeah. I've been doing this for 20 years. No, you've been doing it the same way. The first year you learned it for the past 20 years. Yeah. So, at least in the past, 4, 5, 6 years, we've been definitely hiring more green techs. Some have got great potential, and some we've had to kind of say, we're just not sure you're ever going to get it.
Mm.
But I mean, we do give him a decently long leash and decently long grace period to try and bring them up as far as we can. But there are just some that just, it does not work out.
So at what point do you guys make that decision? If they're improving gradually and barely, do you still hang on to them, or does it just get to a point where they're just not improving at all?
There just gets to the point that between me and, because I'm going to be the one following them up, especially on callbacks and stuff like that. And if I see how problematic the follow-up is, or how upset the customer is based off their attitude or something like that, then at some point I've just got to go to my boss and go, are they making the company money? Is it worth the cost of, washing their uniforms every week? I mean, it's a hard decision to make. I don't like doing that, but it gets to a point that, that's a big part of it is the callbacks. I don't like callbacks. I don't like running other people's callbacks, other than the fact that I can generally make the customer happier afterwards.
Facts. And no one likes running anyone else's callbacks. So I mean, sometimes it's like, are they not getting it, or is the work ethic? What do you see? Do you see there's a lot of work ethic issues, or more lack of comprehension over time? What?
Honestly, it could be a little bit 50-50. It could be because I do encourage all of my technicians to go above and beyond, outside of work, watch YouTube videos, read an extra book. We've got a screen right outside of our training room where I was running HVACR videos on loop because he's got 400 and some odd videos that I could just let run. And hopefully I would be able to encourage them to make, hey, that's kind of cool. Maybe I could go home and watch those myself. But some of it is, there were the people that just cannot comprehend it. I don't think are ever going to make it in our industry. Yeah. Because it's just going to create too many callbacks, too much. I can only cover for so much before I get frustrated, and then I need to take it, up a level.
Yeah. And at what point are they not, I think on top of all that, you have to make a decision as safety, not just for the company's brand, but for them. I mean, if you're going to sit there and continuously make serious mistakes, I mean, when are you going to hurt yourself or someone else? So,
customer interaction is probably one of the biggest things I see struggling with, especially with younger people right now. I've got two of my sons working with me. One's actually probably the top tech in the branch as far as numbers go. And then his friend just came on, but I noticed with, the 18 to 23-year-olds, man, they've grown up with that phone in their hand, and it seems like they've kind of lost that interaction component with people because it's always been over the phone. It's been, little messages on text or social media and stuff. And I think that's been the biggest struggle I've seen with like my boys personally is like get them to talk to people. And then, I didn't like talking to people when I first started doing this either, but I learned that when I got better at talking to people, I had better outcomes because people were more forgiving to my mistakes, not being able to fix it if I explained it in a way that they understood or treated them like a human being.
Oh yeah. That's I mean, a technician just walks in and goes, oh, yep, it's broke. I'll also have to order something and I'll be back. It doesn't reassure the customer that you actually know what you're doing or that you're, creating a good brand. I do like to go in and, all right, so the linear actuator's bad. It's the part that lifts the platen. It's going to be, it's about $800 right now. So I'm going to go ahead and write up an estimate, get it sent over to your boss so they can prove it real quick, and we'll get you taken care of as soon as possible. I do like to have some, as much as I, am not big on some people, I do like to at least make sure my customers are reassured that we are on top of it.
Yeah, more is more, in my opinion, when it comes to communication.
Yeah, I'm a guy that writes a freaking story for my notes, and my boss gets mad sometimes. I'm like, but you never have to call me and ask me what I did here.
Yeah. It's a good record, yeah. You know,
You're
and
gonna
we've had
know
an
that
episode.
that's gonna be the third steam well on the left on the north end of the kitchen that is right next to the convection ovens. That thermostat's not going in the wrong well.
Yeah, we had that episode where we talked about communication, where you could be a master tech and you're not great at communication and talking to your customer and stuff like that, and then you could have a tech that's struggling but is very open, very communicative, and you'll find that they get a lot more grace and trust versus someone who's a master tech who you don't speak. So, they're assuming the worst about that technician, because they just want to get in and get out. They're not personable and whatnot.
Right.
So, we really push on communication.
Nice. The chat's talking about your cat. They thought it was going to fall off the cat tower back there. I'm just scrolling through some notes.
I was watching the cat. I'm like, man, that's a nice stand. I was just talking to my wife about
not that cat. That cat's my skinny bounce around the house cat.
That's funny. That's great. I love chat. They're just like on some little tangent. I'm like, what are they talking about? Oh, it's the cat. It's funny.
That's his real name's Jack Daniels. We call him Jackass.
Nice. So, any particular equipment or tech trends that excite you or frustrate you, you see coming or are you working on now?
I mean, the automation's pretty cool. Definitely seeing the robot arms down at the MIC is pretty cool. And of course, being a senior technician, I want to be that technician that gets to meet out with the engineer one day, get the specialty tool set, and let that that automation engineer show me how to fix it next time. That stuff's really cool. There was some interesting stuff at Henny Penny that's going to require a little bit more delicate mechanical aptitude, not just a swap this part, swap this part, swap this part. It's going to be a lot more just understanding the delicacy of how bearings work and how things move. And
nice.
But yeah, really automation is going to be pretty interesting.
Henny Penny roll something out new?
Not yet.
Okay.
Jason,
Henny Penny's my favorite fryer to work on, at least.
The Henny Penny.
Well, they're pretty nice. They are. You can definitely tell that the technical department was involved in some of the engineering and design.
Yeah, or an engineer actually cared about it being serviced. And tech friendly equipment. I love it.
So, what is one tool you cannot live without in the field?
Well, what's in my wear pouch every day on my hip? And that's going to have 10-in-1 needle nose with wire strippers, a little pair of Nipix, and pocket thermometer.
Didn't even hesitate.
Oh, and a small crescent.
Nice.
Yeah,
It make you dangerous. Get you started.
That's the kind of stuff you can at least walk in and diagnose. And if you have to come back to your van for something else, there's a problem. There's a bigger problem.
Well, a lot of guys give me, crap about how heavy my tool bag is. I've got the Milwaukee structured 15-inch, and it's probably a good 40 pounds. But I can guarantee about 99% of calls I can take care of with my bag. With my bag.
That's the way I am. I got on that roof the other day, and I had to climb up like 3 sections of ladder on the side of the building, and I carry that Vito Wheeler XL, that big giant thing. It weighs like 60 pounds. I was like throwing stuff in my pocket. My pants are falling off. I'm like, I gotta get something better set up if I gotta start doing roof stuff more often, because this is not gonna work.
Yeah, I definitely have thought heavily about whenever I start to do refrigeration about how basically I have to have 2 different bags. One for refrigeration, one for outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but the first tools you just mentioned in your quick pouch, that works for both. So,
yeah.
The only thing it doesn't, it's like your refrigeration wrench, and then whatever probes or gauges you use. I mean, everything else is pretty much the same. So, how did you come up with the nickname Kitchen Cowboy for your YouTube and social media and stuff?
It's more just random. the fact that I'm in Oklahoma. We've got, OSU Cowboys. We've got, mainly just an Oklahoma thing. It's just kind of random.
I'm assuming you
real
like country
meaning
music,
behind it.
right?
I do.
Okay. But you said hip hop and R&B.
I like
earlier.
pretty much all music.
Like, I hope they have a country night.
Well, it was a hip hop and R&B club, but
that's funny. That's funny. If you had, so what's the number one piece of advice you'd give someone thinking about getting into this industry?
take the time to learn outside of your day to day. Even if it's just 15 minutes to watch a couple videos when you get home, or listen to a podcast on the way home. I listen to, even though I don't do refrigeration, I listen to 4 or 5 different refrigeration podcasts just to get more of a feel for the industry, more of a sense of what tools are using. Of course, I really like Adrian's review videos and his podcasts because he goes really into the tools of that trade and what he thinks about them. But it's really more about just taking just a little bit of time to educate yourself further than what you learned just that day.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Your employer is only going to train you on what they need you to do. Like, they have a need to fill, and they're going to train you to fill that need. If you want to do more, you really got to take it on yourself.
Yeah.
So
I tell kids, I'm like, listen, you're gonna. A lot of the younger folk, they spend quite a bit of time on video games, scrolling, playing around on their phone. I'm like, that same energy you can put into a little bit of, 15 minutes here, 20 minutes there. You have to translate it into money for a lot of these kids. It's like, the more you add on to your credentials and your experience, it's more money. It's more money,
Yep. The more
and I'm sure there's a lot of, companies that don't like to, at least from the manager side or salary side, they can't really tell their employees, no, I need you to go home on your own time, do this, do that. That's becoming a lot harder nowadays with some people. But if you do it yourself and express to your management that you are progressing, I just think it goes a lot further.
I agree.
Shows initiative and drive, shows determination, man. It goes a long way. It's more than just they're learning you're doing. It shows that you want to be more and you want to be that better person. So it's a good way to put it. How can we as an industry do a better job educating and attracting the next wave of technicians?
Well, and of course, everyone says, like, Josh Solon or one of them says we need to get into the schools when they're younger, try and attract, career days in middle schools, hopefully push, high schoolers towards a tech school. Because like when I was in high school, we had the option to go to a half-day tech school.
Vocational.
And I did, vocational. Yeah. And again, it's really at least specific to our industry, open our fields to mechanics, to welders, to, not just the kids coming out of vocational HVAC, but others that are already mechanically inclined, and really, again, hope they have a good attitude and be able to teach them our trade.
I have a hope that they're going to I'm hoping and I'm praying literally that they're going to bring shop class back. I had shop class in middle school and high school, and it's something I really miss, and I really wish they brought it back, and I'm hopeful they will.
Shop class was an absolute blast, man. I loved it. 7th and 8th grade, we had to do shop. We did home ec, and we did
home ec
and computers, because computers were starting to get big back then. So we had to do we split that up, 3 ways for 7th and 8th grade, and I learned a ton. Home ec wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I had fun in areas, hang out with friends and goof off, and learn how to sew. That I'll never sew anything on ever again. But it was all skills that you may need one day, and these kids don't get that opportunity anymore.
Yeah, you say that, but I sewed up a ripped apart dog toy last night.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
That's awesome. I love that.
That's cool. So no, yes, shop class needs to come back, and I did a vocational thing too. I did 2 years of electrical. That's how I got started in the trades, and I transitioned over into this. And I'm thankful for my electrical background because it helped me understand a few things. But I think shop class vocational is where it's at.
No. I'm just worried about the litigity,
Litigity?
the liability of
liability.
just the liability factor nowadays. Yeah, I just Porky Pigged that. Yes, I did.
Well, I mean, there was liability then. I mean, but the kids are a little different, built a little different.
It just
now.
seems like it's so much worse.
All I know is you said that, and I thought of that video of that kid on that lift at Lowe's, and he's got that box, and it weighs like 40 pounds, and he's like smashing the side of the lift, and he's screaming.
Oh, I haven't seen it. Send that to me.
I'll have to find it. It's hilarious. Box on the shelf, and he's up there, and it's like pinned against the side of the lift, and he's screaming and crying bloody murder. And I was like, yeah, I could see a kid doing that. Because I think electrical, man, we were in classrooms changing ballast with power on with kids in the classroom on a lift.
Hell yeah.
You know, I was blowing strippers up. I was tripping breakers. I was doing all kinds of stuff. And there's kids in there, dude. I'm 16, 17, 18 years old doing this. I was in the parking lot getting shocked by 277 because the light wasn't on because the photocell killed one leg, and I didn't know that because no one explained it to me. So I'm in there cutting stuff, and all of a sudden I get 277, and I'm dancing. You know?
And how many years ago is that?
26.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know.
That's how you learn. That's how we learn, man. That's our generation, bro.
All right, we are coming up on a full hour, man. I really appreciate you coming on, telling your story, talking about how you went from, running a nightclub to fixing fryers, ovens, combis, and now learning refrigeration. It's a pretty cool story. I mean, we all end up in the trades in our own little way, our own little path, and it's amazing to see that, we can succeed. We don't have to follow that mold. We don't have to go to college. We can make something of ourselves just by hard work and determination. So I love hearing stories like yours, Stuart.
No, he froze up on me for a second.
Oh, you're good. Do you want to tell everybody where they can find you at? I know I want to start promoting your social media and YouTube channel because I see you putting out a lot of stuff. I know you want to start doing some longer format stuff. I'm looking forward to that. So you want to go ahead and promote where everybody can find you?
Yeah, I think on Instagram it's Kitchen Cowboy 918, and then mainly I'm probably going to be mainly on YouTube at Kitchen_Cowboy.
And when we put this episode out, I'll tag all your social media handles on there. People can go find you and follow you on there. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know you're on call and you're just waiting on that phone to ring like me right now. But I appreciate you. Have a good night, man.
All right, you too.
See you guys.
Bye.
If you guys would, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast. It really helps us grow and helps us know which direction to move in. Also, if you have any suggestions for guests, please email me at commercialkitchenchronicles@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a guest, email me. Love to have you guys on. Thanks a lot. See you next week.